Oma Gyan Timidandasya Gadangada Shalakaya Chaksur Miritam Jena Tasmaya Sri Vrindavan Dham Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadhamayam Tadanti Svadantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasana Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. So once again, I'm really happy to be with all of you because you relish it. And before beginning, I take permission from Dinabandhu Prabhu, who's really our Parikama Guru. He knows every speck of dust in Sri Vrindavan Dham. He's traversed it over and over and over and over. He's covered with Braj Renu, and he's a real magnet for devotees who want to try to become Brajavasis, which really, in truth, is our goal in life. Panam Gatin, beyond the official kingdom of the Lord, is Goloka Vrindavan. Go means cows and Loka means abode. So Srila Jiva Goswami, he coins the phrase that Goloka is a planet of cows. The other day I was meeting with some Christian people, and we were just speaking about the highest destination of religion, to go back home, and they call it heaven. So it was a nice conversation. One of them asked me, how do you describe heaven? And I said, Golok. So they say, what does that mean? I said, it means heaven is a planet of cows. They didn't really understand that so well, but it's a fact, because Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Hitaya Cha Jagaditaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Two things are particularly dear to the Lord, and that is brahmanas and cows. And brahmanas, because, well, after the Lord departs this world, he leaves his message behind. He comes and he reestablishes the principles of Dharma by speaking Bhagavad Gita, the song of the Lord. And then he departs for his own abode, and in his absence, his representatives, the brahmanas, sometimes considered to be like the mouth of God, they keep the movement going, they keep the message going through the eons of time. So they're very dear to the Lord. Like father, like son, they keep the message going by their preaching. But when we learn about Sri Vrindavan Dham, the playground of God, we see that, well, we could surmise that the cows are even dearer. Because every day Krishna goes to the forest, not with herds of brahmanas. He goes to the pasturing grounds of Braj with Balaram, with, well, 900,000 cows. Nanda Maharaj has in his Gokul 900,000 cows, so at least partially they all go to the forest, and Krishna really spends most of his day in the pasturing grounds. And he comes home in the evening, and he's received by the townfolk. That's why it's said there's a festival every day in Braj, because when the Lord comes back from the pasturing grounds, as he's been gone, for the Brajavasis in different mellows and different humors, every moment of separation is like 1,000 years or more. So when the Lord comes back, it's a jubilant festival. As much as you're attached to someone, when you're separated from them, to that degree you feel separation, isn't it? Separation makes the heart grow fonder. So it's kind of Krishna's way of keeping the love ad infinitum, growing, ad infinitum in the spiritual world. He comes and he goes. Sambho, Vipralamba, Sambho. It's all the art of love. So the cows are very dear to Krishna. And in my conversation with the Christians, there was one priest there, they said, well, you call it Vrindavan on this planet. We heard your little talk the other day at the Sunday feast. You call it Vrindavan. So why is, heaven's such a wonderful place, but why are you always talking about Vrindavan? I said, because Vrindavan's heaven on earth. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And that's perfectly portrayed in our Gaudiya Vaishnava culture, that Goloka comes to the material world in the form of Gokula. Because when Krishna left the spiritual world to introduce the process of dharma, sanatana dharma, or religion in this world, like a king goes with his family, his ministers, his servants, some of the population, the chariots, the horses. So it's not a perfect analogy, but when God leaves the spiritual world, he comes with that atmosphere. The atmosphere that we live in is very important. If you're in the mode of ignorance, you want to be in bars and discos, that livens your mood. And if you want to be in the mode of rajas, passion, you go to the cricket match, and the whole stadium's rooting for their team, and you get all fired up. Then mode of goodness means you go to the forest with your friends, and you have a picnic, and that. So in the same way, the atmosphere we live in is very conducive to our consciousness. That's why you live in this beautiful temple. You come to this beautiful temple. Your consciousness is elevated. So Krishna, when he leaves the spiritual world, paritranaya sadhanam vinashaya duskritam dharma samstam panarthaya, for his purposes, age after age, he brings the whole spiritual world with him, including his dearmost Srimati Radharani and the gopis and the cowherd boys, etc. So Vrindavan, here in India, stone's throw from Hyderabad, so to speak, it's a very special place because there the Lord, he manifests his original form. He has many other forms for different purposes. Ete chamsa kalo pumsha krishnashtu bhagavan shvayam. When the Lord comes to the world according to time, place, and circumstance to correct adharma, he may assume different forms for that purpose, and those different incarnations are him, but only partially him. Only partially. They don't have all the opulences of avatari, the original form of Godhead. But that's his Leela, that's his pastimes. But when God comes to Vrindavan, Swayam Bhagavan, that's his original form, and that's very important. Because, religion, I think all bona fide religions will concur that the purpose of religion is to develop love for God. We lost that relationship. We're trying to recover it. Actually, the religion, the word regilio in religion is a Latin verb which means to reconnect. So religion means to reconnect. Like yoga means to connect. It's the same connotation. So by religion. So we're trying to love God. But with all due respect to our brothers and sisters and other spiritual traditions, how can you love someone you know nothing about? Isn't it? Those of you who are married, you chose your spouse because of the way they look, the way they walk, the way they talk. You like the same music. You like the same clothes. You like, you know what I mean? Love is in the details. So this Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition, it's good for the whole world, irrespective of whatever tradition one is following, they can add this on. Because here we have, in our Vedic culture, a detailed description of the most lovable person, Krishna. His name, his fame, his form, his pastimes. In fact, one time Prabhupada, in a humorous way, he said, because in those days there was no fax machines or internet or like that, he said, we even know God's phone number. Then he joked, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So this is the beauty of our culture. This is India's gift to the world. Like one time Prabhupada said, it's quite amazing actually. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlava. Takes many lifetimes to understand Krishna. But Lord Chaitanya, his most recent incarnation, is even more merciful than Krishna. And in many ways, Prabhupada's more merciful than Lord Chaitanya, because we tried to follow the standard of being a devotee 500 years ago would be very difficult. So Prabhupada adapted it. Acharyas can do that. And one time he said, here's Krishna, take him. This is astounding. This should be on the front page of every newspaper. Here's Krishna, take him. These are special times. In the midst of this horrible Kali Yuga, these are special times. And that was noted by Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada when he first saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Ramkeli, in North Bengal. Mahaprabhu was going to Vrindavan, but he knew on the way up north, two of his eternal devotees, Sri Rupa Manjari, etc., they were there as part of his mission. So he made a little detour. He went north to see Rupa and Sanatan. And when Rupa Goswami first got a glimpse of Lord Chaitanya, as he walked into the village, it was actually a kingdom, but Rupa and Sanatan lived a little bit outside of the kingdom. I was there recently, beautiful little village and home they have with Radhakund and Shamakund and Govardhan Hill. So when Rupa Goswami saw Mahaprabhu, from his heart sprung this beautiful verse, just like sometimes when the underground water may burst forward from the ground. It's called a spring, a freshwater spring. It just bursts forth from the pressure of the earth. It makes a beautiful spring. It starts flowing. So from the heart of Rupa Goswami, he said, Momaha Badanaya Krishna Prem Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Ramne Gotashe Namaha. We're so fortunate we get to look into the heart of these great acharyas, these great pure devotees, by the words. It's almost like poetry flowing from their mouths. He was noting that this is most amazing. This is Krishna in a golden form. You who were bluish black in the previous age of Attapur Yuga, you've now appeared in a golden form. You're the golden avatar. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radhe Krishna Nahi Anga. Another verse. You are the combined form of Radha and Krishna to deliver the people of this age, the people of Kali Yuga, through the simple process of chanting Hare Krishna. And what are you giving them? Braj Bhakti, the highest understanding, more confidential, intimate, loving relationships you can have with God beyond just, like Surya Sur and Vaikuntha, which is also nice. Krishna wants that. So Rupa was very amazed. You're here in Kali Yuga, the worst of all the ages? You're Tri Yuga avatar. You appear in Satya, Krishna. You appear in Treta. You appear in Dwapara. But there's no mention in Shastra of you appearing in Kali Yuga. It's almost like a four-letter word, Kali Yuga. But Bhagavatam does mention the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna Varnam Kusha Krishnam Shangopanga Shiparshadam Yagnaya Sankatan Prayashantihi Shuvanisha. He'll come disguised as a devotee, chanting his own sweet holy names, introducing the Yuga Dharma, the process for this age. And how can he be recognized? He's surrounded by his loving devotees who are singing congregationally the same holy names. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we're blessed. And this movement is meant for the whole world. It's so nice to see how it's prospering. I'm overwhelmed with my tour of South India. So many blissful devotees, so many temples, so many beautiful deities, so many books, Prabhupada's books being translated into different language. It's quite overwhelming. I'm amazed. But really, it's a movement for the whole world. This is not an Indian movement. Hare Krishna is not Indian. Golok Prem Dan Harinam Shankirtan. Narottam, the great Narottam Das Thakur, one of our great heroes, Shyamananda, Srinivasacharya, they took over the Sankirtan movement after the departure of the Panchatattva. Narottam Das Thakur, Golok Prem Dan Harinam. He says this movement has come from the spiritual world. It comes to India because, you may know, in Chaitanya Charitamrita it's described that the most pious persons in the universe, they take birth in Bharat. In Bharat. It's the new way we say India now. Your Prime Minister. Bharat. And, but it's not an Indian movement. I have a festival of India which travels to different parts of the world to introduce your culture to people. But with all due respect, I tell people this is the culture of the spiritual world. It's meant for everybody because why? Jiver Supoya Krishnara Nityadas. We're all ultimately servants of Krishna. George Harrison, the famous member of the quartet of the Beatles, he said, everyone's a devotee of Krishna. Everyone. Some know it and some don't. Because we all have the same Father. Krishna is the seed-giving Father of all living entities. He says it in one of the priceless 700 verses of Bhagavad Gita, that he's the seed-giving Father of all living entities. So if you have the same Father, you're brothers and sisters. And this is the peace formula. If we want peace, prosperity, love in the world, we have to preach this philosophy very vigorously. We're not Indian, American, German, black, white, yellow, green, any Martians come, men, women. These are temporary designations for these temporary bodies, but we're all brothers and sisters. So this message is meant for Canada, France, Germany, Ethiopia, and South Africa. Myself and Dinabandhu Prabhu and others, we go to South Africa. It's really nice preaching because the African people, they like to dance. They like to sing. And when I preach in the universities, they're very intelligent boys and girls. They ask nice questions. And through the years, I developed a very close friendship with the king of the Zulus, King Goodwill. He passed away recently. But we had many discussions. He was a Christian, and we had many discussions sharing our traditions with each other, with what religion should do to inspire each other. And one time he asked me, Maharaj, what is your name for God? So I said, well, God has many names, but in his own village, in his hometown, they call him Krishna. He said, what does Krishna mean? I said, King Goodwill, it means the most attractive person. Hey, that's very nice, Maharaj. So I said, King Goodwill, he was king of like almost 60 million Zulus. And I said, King Zulu, what is the name for God in Zulu? And I was shocked by what he said. Would you like to hear it? He said, in Zulu language, we call God Akulukula. Akulukula. Okay, that sounds like Zulu language because the BBT in all their glory have translated Bhagavad Gita into the Zulu language. So instead of Krishna said, Akulukula says, Sarvadharma Parichaja Mama Kamasa. So I said, King Goodwill, what does Akulukula mean? And I was shocked. He said, oh, akulum kulum means that person who owns the most cows. Govindam Adipurusham Amam Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham. Yes, so you see the similarities. So why fight all over the small differences when there's so many similarities? And if we present Krishna consciousness in proper way as ladies and gentlemen, and present the culture as it is, as the highest culture, we have a very high culture to support our philosophy, people will embrace these higher concepts because it's only natural to become a devotee of Krishna. Because there's so much we know about him. I was remembering on the way here, it's kind of corny, but there was a song when we were young, we were teenagers. It was called, "To know you is to love you." You know, I shouldn't think about my teenage years, but to know you is to love you. And one line went, "Just to see you smile makes my life worthwhile. To know you is to love you." Anyway, that's enough of that. So, especially in our Gaudiya tradition, we have unlimited details to awaken our affection, our attraction, and our love for God. In that order. We say it differently, you know, in Krishna consciousness, we establish Sambandha relationship, and then there's Raganuga Bhakti, and then there's Prem Bhakti. So, but in common layman language, we develop some attraction, and by serving Krishna it turns into affection, and affection eventually turns into love. And how does it all happen? It's not mysterious. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Shmarnam, Parasevanam, Archanam, Bandham, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. Our acharyas have outlined a 9-fold process, step by step. You know, like when I was learning Polish, or trying to learn Polish, I bought a book, The Polish Language in 10 Easy Lessons. But Polish is like Chinese backwards, so I'm on lesson 3. So here's, our acharyas have chalked out a step-by-step process for awakening that love of God that's already there within our hearts. And the beginning's most potent. Shravanam Kirtanam brings Krishna Smaranam. Hearing and chanting about the Lord, that's like the primary process. Other processes, they strengthen that, because in this age, the process is what? Harinam, Harinam, Harinam eva kevalam. Kalo, Nasteva, 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 Gatiranyata. Hearing and chanting about Krishna. So Bhagavad Gita class is generally meant, you know, the ABCs, of course not so elementary, but it's the beginning stages. And Srimad Bhagavatam class, Prabhupada said, is for devotees who know the basic tenets of our tradition. So because we're sitting in front of the divine couple, Sri Radha and Krishna, and most beautiful, your deities, I almost fainted seeing them. I mean, I'm a neophyte devotee, but they are so beautiful and so well taken care of and so well dressed, we can only say thank you. It's so nice, your deities. So we're in front of your deities, and we have beautiful paintings of Krishna's pastimes on the walls here in Gauranga's pastimes. I thought that it's okay if we share a pastime in Vrindavan, because this, you know, what's our home like? We want to go home, so like, you know, or people, let's say in general, when they want to go on vacation, they look through a travel journal and they read about the details of Tahiti or Thailand or, God forbid, New York or someplace, and they read about the place and then they get, oh yeah, let's go there, like that. So we don't want that type of journey. We're on a journey home, you know, like Radhanath Swami's illustrious famous book, The Journey Home. So what's our home? Our home's Vrindavan. That's our home. So the more we can hear about it, we can be convinced we want to go there. So I'll share a nice pastime with you about Vrindavan. And this pastime's in the mode of friendship with Krishna. It's called sakhya-rasa. You know the cowherd boys? Friendship. Krishna is our every well-wisher. He's our dearmost friend. One time, a disciple asked Prabhupada that perennial question. Srila Prabhupada, what is the meaning of the Hare Krishna mantra? I don't know how many times Prabhupada was asked that question for the answer. And what was his general answer? My Lord, my dear Lord, energy of the Lord, Srimati Radharani, please engage me in your service. I've been bereft of service for countless lifetimes. Just give me a little seva, because by seva I can attain you. I can awaken my love, be qualified to go home. So like that. But this time, it's like Jesus said, my cup runneth over with love. Sometimes the pure devotees, they're so overwhelmed by their love, little tidbits come out. So Prabhupada answered the question in a very interesting way. He said, what does it mean, this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra? And he closed his eyes. He said, it means, my friend, my friend, my friend. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So I don't in any way imagine myself to be in that relationship, but still Krishna is our well-wishing friend, because he sent his dearmost representative to pull us out of the quagmire of material existence. So a friend in need is a friend indeed. So we can consider Krishna a friend in that way, but the friendship in Vrindavan, it's on a much deeper level. And this pastime which I want to share with you, it'll demonstrate that. Friendship with the Lord. We know there's different relationships you can have with Krishna. You can be your friend. He can be like your son. At least that parental mood is there. He can be your lover, as exhibited by the milkmaids of Vrindavan. Of course, in Vaikuntha, it's a mood a little bit different. That Vaikuntha, with all its unlimited planets, is called the official kingdom of God. And there, everyone worships the Lord, more or less, in a mood of awe and veneration. And that's very nice, of course, to worship the Lord like that. But we're aspiring for something more intimate, if so be the desire of the Lord. Prabhupada made a nice analogy. He said, just like a man, he has his business, whatever it is, IT, his IT business. Most of you are ITs, aspiring ITs. So you have a boss, and if he's a good boss, you have a nice relationship. It's more like master and servant. But Prabhupada said that when the boss goes home, he has his family, and his relationship with his family is more intimate. And I was listening to a lecture of Prabhupada just the other day. It was a lecture on June 5th, 1976 in Los Angeles, and Prabhupada, he told the story that, and you may have heard it because it's quite popular in ISKCON, that once someone came to see Queen Victoria's Prime Minister in England. His name was William Gladstone. I looked him up. He's a proper British man with mustache and hair and proper, sitting like this, quite arrogant. I don't know. For the photo maybe, whatever. He was Prime Minister. And some person came to see him for whatever reason in his office, in the Parliament in London. And the servant of the Prime Minister, William Gladstone, he told that visitor, the Prime Minister is a little busy. In his office, you're going to have to wait. So this gentleman said, yes, he's a special personality. When I see him, I'll call him Lord, Sir, yes, sir, the formality will be there. I'm trained in politics. But an hour passed, and this man was getting a little impatient. So he kind of opened the door to the Prime Minister's office and peeked in, and what did he see? He saw that the Prime Minister had become like a horse, or let us say, Horsey. He was down on all fours on his hands and his legs, and on his back, Prabhupada said grandchildren in this lecture. His grandchildren were on top of him. Ha, Horsey, ha, whoa, ho. And the Prime Minister was going, nay, nay, nay. So he's Prime Minister at that time, one of the most powerful nations in the world. But he become like a little horsey for his grandchildren. So Prabhupada used that analogy. Analogies are there to make perhaps difficult philosophical concepts easier to understand. So Prabhupada said, God in the office and God at home. God in the office is Vaikuntha, and God at home in Braj. So Krishna likes that. He likes both because variety is the spice of life, and Vaikuntha exists because of the desire of the Lord. So we don't judge it as something inferior. It's like perfect, more perfect, and most perfect. And what is most perfect? Krishna says. It's quoted in Adi Leela, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela 3:16. Aishvarya Janate Shabha Jagat Mishtuta. Aishvarya Shitala Prem Nahi Mari Prita. Knowing my opulences, the whole world looks upon me with awe and veneration. But devotion made feeble by such reverence does not attract me. It's a little deep, but try to absorb. Knowing my opulences, the whole world looks upon me in awe and reverence. But such devotion made feeble by reverence does not attract me. Amala bhakti, pure devotion for Krishna, like the gopis manifested. Krishna likes that the best. So the mood of one of those sweet relationships in Vrindavan is sakhya-rasa, it's friendship. And that's very nicely explained in one very nice devotee. His name was Naya Nandana, and he wrote a famous book about sakhya-rasa. It's called Prayo Bhakti Sarvana. I know a lot of my friends really like that book, like Charatma Prabhu. He really likes to read that book, Prayo Bhakti Sarvana. And there in this bhakta, this Brajbasi, obviously devotee, he gives us a little hint into what it is to be like a cowherd boy. Because you know, eventually you'll hear all this, and then from your heart will spring forth this desire to be in one of these relationships with Krishna. And Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu says at that exalted point, when the heart is completely purified by chanting Hare Krishna, strictly following the rules and regulations, the straight and narrow under Prabhupada's guidance, you'll become attracted to a particular devotee in Braj, and you want to follow in their footsteps. What is their mood of serving Krishna? How do they dress? How do they walk? How do they talk? Like that. That's part of our process. That's coming in the future. But at least we know who we are and we know where we're going, because the Acharyas are so kind. So listen to what he says about this particular relationship, just to get a glimpse of the future. With great trust in Krishna, one thinks of oneself as equal to Krishna by Krishna's mercy. One associates with him constantly without fear, thinking of being his equal, endowed with sweetness and devoid of seeing Krishna as the Lord. This is called sakhya-rasa. And he goes on. When it is seen that the two have similar affection, it's called sakhya-rati. The devotee feels himself to be equal to Krishna, acts similarly, relaxes with him. You relax with Krishna in the cowherd pastures, and have no fear. They joke with no duplicity. This is called sakhya-rasa. Again, it's deep, but it's good to hear about it, because this is what, like Chanakya Pandit says in his Nitya Shastra. You can only give up something if you get something better. right? So if you have, 5 rupees and I have 100 rupees and we say exchange, it's a no-brainer. Because you're giving up something but getting something better. But in Krishna consciousness, we're giving up something, suffering. Dukkalayam ashashvatam. Eloquence is truth spoken concisely. What's this world? Krishna says it in 2 words. Dukkalayam ashasha. We're giving up something for something better, but we're giving up something for something best. The opportunity for Braj Bhakti, to go to Vrindavan, wrestle with Krishna in the sands of Ramanreti, like that. So and so how do we know? We have to hear about it. With humility, we're not there. One time we were with Prabhupada in Detroit, and Prabhupada was giving a lecture. And then he stopped. And I was sitting right there. And he leaned over and he said to all of us, "My dear boys and girls, please believe me when I tell you, you are not these bodies." We were like Brahmin initiated, doing puja, giving classes, and Prabhupada put us in our position. Please believe me when I tell you you're not these bodies, and I can be honest with you, I'm still trying to understand I'm not this body. But by hearing about the Lord's pastimes, we throw it away, this bodily concept. Aham bhaveti, be gone with you. Aham brahmasmi, come on in my heart. I'm a spirit soul. So we have to hear. So I'll share a pastime with you which will help us to understand and appreciate sakhya-rasa. We heard about it, but it's like hearing about it, we come to see it. Because it's said that a saintly person, he sees through his ears, not through his eyes. So we'll see what is the sakhya-rasa by hearing about it. It's a beautiful friendship pastime that I read in a book I recommend all of you, Nava Braja Mahima, which is a book by my very illustrious, scholarly, educated, devotional godbrother, Srila Shivaram Goswami Maharaj. He wrote a lot. The series is like, I think, 9 or 10 volumes, Nava Braja Mahima. The glories of Vrindavan, the process of devotional service. He researched this knowledge and put it into book form by Gopi Paranadhana, expertise. He's another very dear godbrother who Prabhupada took elsewhere for his mission. Sometimes these things happen. The Lord has, like Tamal Krishna Goswami, these are devotees, very exalted godbrothers who were required in other spheres to continue the Sankirtan mission with Srila Prabhupada. But believe me, these scholars put together this amazing book, and this pastime I gleaned from there. And it's as follows. It's one of my favorites. I hope you like it. It's not that long. So as we know, every day Krishna, Balaram, and the cowherd boys, they would take their cows and calves to the various pasturing grounds of Vrindavan forests. So in this pastime, they came to the border of Braj, the southernmost tip of Braj, to a little hill. We call it in English hillock. It's like, I don't know how it translates in your language. There's hills and there's hillocks. A hillock's a little hill. Hills are little because you have mountains, and little mountains are called hills, and little hills are called hillocks. So they came to this little hillock, and it's called Khambi. Khambi, Khambi. And Maharaj says that the Acharyas write that Lord Balaram was particularly fond of this hill because the boys would have great fun there, rolling and sliding down the soft grasses of this hillock. Dinabandha Prabhu will take you to other hillocks in Vrindavan. There's a famous slide. When I just picture slides, I always think of Dinabandha. He goes, woo, sliding down like he's a cowherd boy, like really in the bhav, and everybody is there. He knows, all these places, these slides and lakes and playgrounds. You go in Purkama, make an appointment with Dinabandha Prabhu. So Balaram, he loves this hillock at Khambi because they can slide down the soft grass, or their cows munch on the soft grass at the bottom of the hill. So on this particular day, the boys were playing on the hill, when all of a sudden Balaram stood up, and he said, "My dear friends, please stop playing and listen to me. I have something very serious to share with you." So all the boys, they gathered around Balaram, and he said, "My dear friends, Vrindavan ends here at Khambi. I warn you that if you venture beyond this point, you'll be under the jurisdiction of the modes of nature. My dear friends, never go further than Khambi." So it said that hearing Balaram's words, the boys started trembling. Beyond Vrindavan? We don't want to go there. We don't want to fall under this jurisdiction of the modes of nature. So then, to make it very clear, Balaram took a stick and he drew a line on top of the hill. And pointing to it, he said, "Here is Krishna on this side. On the other side is the kingdom of Maya." And then Balaram became very philosophical. Usually the cowherd boys, it's all fun and games, leapfrog and hide and seek and swimming and wrestling. It's just small talk. But for whatever reason, perhaps to enlighten us, Balaram said, "My dear friends, inside this line, you're protected by the spiritual atmosphere of Vrindavan. And on the other side of this line, you'll be victimized by Maya." Prabhus, we're all victimized by Maya. No one can be proud. You can't have an ounce of pride in this world because you've been victimized by Maya. She has many tricks up her sleeve. In the first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it mentions how even devatas can be fooled as fire is seen on water, or water is seen on land, mirages, even devatas. What to speak of us? We're all victimized. So the pastime goes on that when the boys heard Balaram speak so seriously, their mouths dropped open. They were stunned. Did any of your mouths drop open when I said you were victimized by Maya? Come on, you're victimized by Maya. Okay. Of course, the cowherd boys are all transcendentalists. They're completely free forever. They're Nityasiddhas from any influence of Maya. They're Krishna's associates. But the nature of Vrindavan is they thought themselves to be just cowherd boys, and therefore their only refuge is Krishna and Balaram. This is the beauty of Braja Bhakti. It's another subject matter. This is all Purnamasi's grace. She's creating these pastimes. So the pastime goes on that the cowherd boys actually thought that if they crossed the line, they would risk, the boys were thinking, they become demons like Kamsa. The little boys. Frogs and snails and puppy dog tails. Boys are boys. What's the other side, girls? Sugar and spice and everything nice. Brahmacharis, cover your ears. Sugar and spice and everything. It's an English saying. So boys are frogs and snails and puppy dog tails. Their boys will be boys. So these boys are thinking, gosh, if I cross the line here at Khambi, I'm going to become a little Kamsa. And one said, yeah, if you cross the line, you're going to become Denakasura. Another boy said, if you cross the line, you're going to become like Shishupal. And they were, warning each other like that. But then being enthusiastic young boys, they couldn't resist the urge to test Balaram's warning. Curiosity killed the cat. So when Balaram went off to find a stray calf, boys will be boys, they started daring each other. Remember when you were boys? You dare a friend to do something? So one boy said to another, I dare you to cross that line. Another boy would reply, no, I dare you to cross the line. Another boy said to his friend, Bet you can't do it. And his friend would reply, sure I can do it. The question is, will you cross the line? You know, boys, right? So like this, they were challenging each other at Khambi. Finally, one of the older boys, he stood up, he said, all right then, let's just all of us together cross the line into the kingdom of Maya. So all the boys, yeah, let's do it. Whoa, whoa. They started laughing and joking, but a little nervous. Okay, so they crossed over the line that Balaram had drawn on the hill of Khambi. But then only after a little distance, they turned around and quickly ran back into Vrindavan. But then again, laughing and joking, they all ran out and a little bit further, and then ran back. And on the last venture out, they went 100 meters into Maya's kingdom. And they stood there very nervously until one boy taunted Maya Devi, saying, hey Maya, look over here, can you see us? Well, come on then, bet you can't catch us. So then one of the older boys, Raktak, he said, actually my friends, I think we're being foolish. We should do what Balaram says, right? Balaram's known as the first spiritual master. He's the first expansion of Krishna. He's Dauji, he's the elder brother, so he has a relationship of subservience to Krishna because he's an expansion of Krishna. But he's the elder brother, so he's Dauji, so he has another relationship with Krishna. He's very protective of Krishna. And he has many services in a subordinate nature to Krishna. He expands as the Dham. He expands as the chamara whisk of Krishna. He expands as the Lord's slippers, like this. So he has many, he's very exalted. Actually, there's no difference between Krishna and Balaram, really. Just Krishna's bluish-black like a monsoon cloud, and Balaram's white like an autumn cloud. But Balaram's also defined as the original spiritual master. So whatever the spiritual master says, the disciple has to take verbatim. So the cowherd boys, they took it like that. Balaram said, don't do it, so let's go back. So they ran back. Balaram saved us. And just at that point, Balaram returned with a stray calf. So that afternoon, they all sat down for lunch, as they do. And some boys could be heard saying to the others, did you cross the line? Another boy said, yeah, of course I did. Did you? His friend would say, yeah. Another boy said, I crossed the line, but a little bit louder he said, I wasn't affected in the least by Maya. So the Leela goes on that overhearing these conversations, Balaram stood up and gave another talk. He said, my friends, you should understand that you didn't fall into illusion because you're Krishna's fully surrendered devotees. Raki Krishna Mare Ke, Mare Krishna Raki Ke, isn't Bengali, right? If Krishna wants to save you, no one can kill you, and if Krishna wants to kill you, no one can save you. So such a devotee like that, wherever he goes, Krishna protects him. So Balaram went on, he said, but for those who are not favored by Krishna, they'll be victimized by temptation outside of Braj and forget everything about the Lord. At that point, the boys said in union, what? Is it possible to forget Krishna? Can I? Balaram said, if you go there, you'll be victim, you'll forget Krishna. So all the cowherd boys, all the residents of Vrindavan, they love Krishna more than anyone's ever been loved before, and Krishna loves them more than anyone's ever been loved before, so they can't forget each other. The nature of love. You're always thinking of your beloved, and if you have pure bhakti, you can meet that standard. Always remember Krishna and never forget him. I saw a t-shirt recently, and the front part of the t-shirt said, always remember Krishna. Oh, that's a cool t-shirt. And the devotee walked by, and the back said, and never forget him. I said, can I have your t-shirt? So the cowherd boys, that's like inconceivable. Somebody forgot Kanai? How can you forget Krishna? He's so amazing, wonderful Krishna. So Balaram said, yes, there are souls who have forgotten him. So the boys went, no, no, no. No one can forget Krishna. Balaram went, yes, indeed. And they live on the other side of that line. And when they heard that, all the boys became silent and stared in disbelief at the world beyond Khambi. So the boys said, well, we're never going to go there again. Now we're convinced. So then the cowherd boys, in the mood of true Brajbasis, they looked at Balaram and they said with one voice and tears in their eyes, Dear Balaram, please warn everyone in Vrindavan never to go beyond this line you have drawn. Tell them never to go over the top of this hill. Never go beyond Khambi. So Balaram, he took the blade of his plow, he has a plow, and from that small hillock in Khambi, he carved out a stone pillar. And he put the pillar on the peak of that little hillock of Khambi. Then he said, this stone which I've taken from this hillock, this marks the boundary between Krishna's realm and Maya's realm. And that pillar stands there to this very day. And I went there with the devotees. I took the Purka. I didn't know the place exists, but from one Ramesh Baba, we found out where this pillar was. And we went there, and it's a large pillar, very large, sturdy pillar. And I went there with the devotees, and some of them were my students, so in the humble mood of Balaram's representative, I said, don't go beyond this pillar. And there were a lot, there's a village there now, so everything's grown up, and there were sweet shops and, cool water and everything on the others, down the street. I said, don't go beyond this pillar, because this is the material. Of course, it's Braj, but we're just speaking in a Krishna conscious way. So we're very fortunate to hear these instructions of Lord Balaram. We know that there is a theoretical line between what we're doing and what we shouldn't do. We live in the world of Maya, but Jesus said, but through the process of religion or through the process of spiritual life, Krishna consciousness, he said, we can be in this world, but not of this world. We can be in the kingdom of Maya, but by chanting our rounds, following the regulative principles, associating with devotees, taking darshan of the deities, going to Braj and becoming inspired, going to Mayapur, going to Ayodhya Dham. Jai Sri Ram! Jai Sri Ram! Jai Sri Ram! Jai Sri Ram! You see? We can be inspired. If you're singing Ram's name, you're singing Krishna's name, Maya's going to stay far away. She has the thankless task of keeping us here, but when she sees that we're enthusiastic to become Krishna conscious, she slowly removes that curtain of Maya, and one day we'll have the real darshan. We'll see Krishna as he's standing here, and one day he'll talk to you. When Prabhupada installed the Chota Radha Krishna deities in Los Angeles in the early days, in his lecture he said, if you see these deities as brass, they'll remain brass to you forever. But if you worship them according to the process I've taught you, as our acharyas have taught you, and with love and devotion, he said, this is 1971 or I don't know, he said, one day these deities will speak to you. So that's all process, that's all possible. So the materialistic people, they say some things right. They say, trust no future, however bright. That's true, because this is the world of duality. But in Prabhupada's guidance, and the mercy of your beautiful deities and your senior devotees, and when you go to Vrindavan, you take shelter of the lotus feet of Dinabandhu Prabhu. He'll explain Vrindavan really as it is. Our future is very bright, so stick to the straight and narrow, be Krishna conscious, and go home. Prabhupada told one of my godmothers that when we get home to the spiritual world, Krishna will be waiting for us. He was Prabhupada's secretary. And he'll take our hands, he'll take us into the kunja, he'll put it in the hand of Krishna, and leave us alone for some time. And then Dhananjaya, another exalted, very exalted godbrother of mine, he lives in London. He was Prabhupada's secretary for some time in Europe, and he opened up a temple in Rome. So many things he did. So one time Prabhupada, in a moment of intimacy again, my cup runneth over with love, Prabhupada said to him, when we get back to the spiritual world, we will all recognize each other. Wow. I'd heard that we'll have our ISKCON in the spiritual world, but I didn't know. I didn't know that when we get back to the spiritual world, we'll all recognize each other. Isn't that wonderful? So our future is very bright. Stick to the straight and narrow. Don't cross the line at Khambi. And we'll see you soon in the spiritual world. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki. Dinabandhu Prabhu Parikama Guru Ki. And before